Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you what it feels like and what the experience is like to work with the Infragistics Net Advantage SharePoint web parts, and in this particular video I'll concentrate more on the chart web part. So on this test server we have the Infragistics Net Advantage SharePoint library installed, and this is my page that I can edit. I have permissions to edit this page, and what I'll do is get started by clicking on the edit button, which will place this web page into edit mode, and that will reveal several tabs in my ribbon at the top of the page. What you want to do is you want to go to Insert, Web Part. So by clicking that, you can navigate the categories list and search and click on the Infragistics gallery of web parts. And for this particular release that I'm recording, we have the chart, content rotator, gauge, map, and the slideshow. So I'm going to click on chart part and click on the add button, and that will place it on the form, and then it will get it ready for editing. Now the next thing that I can do is right click on this chart because it's pretty much empty. And another thing I wanted to tell you is, as a prerequisite, you should have some kind of data that can be modeled into charts that make sense. For example, you'll have various types of SharePoint lists or links to external databases that are exposed as SharePoint lists, so that it varies however you want to set it up. I will right click on the chart in design mode and click on design, and that will bring up the chart editor. I'm going to maximize it so that I could have a little bit more room to work with this. A couple of things that you can do right off the bat is increase the width and the height of the control. The first thing I want to do is get started by adding some series. So I click on the add series drop down here, and as I hover my mouse and click on the various groupings of types of series, you notice that we have one column series we can add, we have several line based series, then we also have some area series where it's pretty much similar to the line but filled in, and then we have financial series. We have one financial chart. So I'm going to click on financial chart because that's the one I want to add, and the select data source dialog pops up. You'll see this throughout many other controls that we have for SharePoint or within the other SharePoint web parts. This dialog allows you to browse and navigate to any SharePoint lists that you might have here available within your permission scope. And what you can also do is map the fields of the list that you select, or select a view from the list, because remember, you can create a list with multiple types of views based on filtering, sorting, and a bunch of other criteria, and you basically point it to the view of the list and then just map the fields from your list with the fields that Infragistics requires you to have in order to have a presentation of your data. I happen to have a list that's based on open, high, low, and close data for a stock that I was checking out. So I'm going to click on that guy right there, and I just happen to have the default view, which is all items. But if I had other views, let's say, let's say if all the stocks were in this list, and I had like a particular view, like based on one company's stock ticker or another company's stock ticker, those particular views would show up in this list, and I could choose them. So now what I do is I could just start dragging and dropping and mapping columns from my list to the required fields of the actual chart web part, the chart series. So I'm going to use the date as the category X. So along the x-axis, the dates will be the determining label of what values we're looking at. So on one date, the open, high, low, and close and volume is this. On the next date, the open, high, low, and close and volume is that. So okay, I drag the open, let's see, the high. Let's do the close. Whoops, close here. Volume goes here. Close is here. High and low. Okay, now we're good to go. Click on OK, and now that's how we set it all up. I just made up that stock ticker, if that exists, sorry, but I just made that one up. So then the next thing we want to do is there's different types of display. Like this is by the default view is candlestick, and right now we're on the series. Like we're on the series tab. So if you have like multiple series, you could select them as well. Let me see. I'll just add another one because I want you to know that you could add different types of series. Let me add a line. A spline chart is cool. And again, I may not have all the data that makes sense for this, but let's just do this anyway. So I'll just map category X. It should actually be. Let me see. Let me do the date here. We do that one, and then the numeric Y. Let's do the high. Let's just track the highs. We're basically just tracking the same data but on a different type of chart series. So, and then the way it works is you could have as many series as you like, each one, as you noticed, having an independent data source. So that's how flexible and really awesome it is to work with this chart. So if I click on this one here, I'm able to, basically just like set properties for this. I can, adjust the thickness, see the preview of what's going on here. I could also change from candlestick to open, high, low, close mode. So I could do that. Some colors here I could adjust as well. And then if I go to the axes, right, so I have an X and Y axis, so Y and X, these are the properties for the Y and the X. Let me go here and also kind of adjust the chart to make it a little bit bigger. So I just hold the mouse button down on these guys here and it changes it. You have to have data in the chart in order for this adjustment to work. Remember before I was playing with this and it didn't work? It's because I didn't have any data in it. And if I click on allow zooming, I could also zoom in on my data at runtime as well. And I could also adjust the angle. So see what I'm doing here? I'm adjusting the angle. I could also adjust the extent because the extent is how much space is being allocated on this UI for the label section. So that's what the extent is. So let's make that bigger. Or let me see, actually if I remove allow zooming, I need to remove the allow zooming feature to enable more in the extent. Same thing with the numeric y-axis. I could set the angle as well here, so if I want to kind of rotate these, just to give you some ideas, change the font size, the visibility. Let's say if I wanted to collapse that so you don't see it, that's how you would do this. And again, notice that there's a certain amount of properties that could be set here, and this is for end users, so anyone in your SharePoint scope, anyone in your enterprise that uses SharePoint that has the ability to make changes to their pages or any pages they have permissions to can use these web parts very easily. So very simple to use, as you see here. We could also set a minimum and a maximum on the axis. So a lot of times, like if you don't want this to start at the minimum value within your data source, you can set this so that on the y-axis you set a minimum and then you could set it to 0. But as you see here, it doesn't really make sense for my particular type of data because that will skew the entire data source. But I could maybe do something like, let's say if I start at like 510 or so, maybe that would make sense for this particular case, or 500. If I do that, see, it makes a little bit more sense, right? So you have to kind of understand the scale. I could also set a maximum. Let's say if I do 600, we could do that as well, or maybe 5. Let's see what's the max on that, like 580. Let's do 580 and see what that looks like. Notice the preview that you get right on the spot. 560. So that's pretty much what it's like to work with this chart. Then we could do things to the legend, like I could set up a common legend, or the other thing I could do is set the different places of where the legend can appear. I could just hide it if I don't even want to show it, so that's how it looked like if I hide it. So then we click on apply and then OK. Then we close it out, and once the page reloads, and I could also save the page as well, it'll jump into regular runtime mode, and then I'll be able to interact with the chart. Or in this case, I didn't allow zooming, but this is what the chart looks like once you set it up. So all the properties that are set on it are all configured. I have 2 series, and all my data is visible to whoever has access to this page. So that's basically what it's like to configure the chart. Now, there's other examples I'd like to show you of something that you spend a little bit more time. But if I go right here, If I go to sharepoint.infragistics.com, right on our public website, and if I jump to, so just take a look at this sample browser real quick. It's a really nice publicly visible SharePoint site that's housed here at Infragistics. And what you want to do is you want to click around the various samples that we have loaded on the top of this page in the menuing system. So if I click on chart, there's more robust examples of just what I put together real quick, which what I put together was just designed to give you a feel for what it's like to work on it. So here's a couple of other charts like this, this one here. If I go to, let's say, financial department site, you'll get to see that chart in real time here. So here's two series with different anchors on the points. This is the data actually behind the scenes, various lists that are placed there. And then this one here, you can zoom in on it. So if I just click on this and start dragging and dragging my mouse while the mouse is being held down, and I can also use page up and page down and left, right, up and down arrows to pan and zoom all around. Notice how the actual legend is also set up here. We have one legend per series here. Then we also have the sales data underneath for the other chart as well, just to show you what it looks like. So again, that's pretty much how this works. You can make some really beautiful charts very easily. Even if you don't read the documentation, you just click on the various elements that you wish to customize, and it's very easy to discover by clicking around the various parts of the designer to make your chart look like one of these guys here. So that's basically what it takes to get up and running really fast. And again, remember, Infragistics Net Advantage for SharePoint gives you all these web parts so that your end users can build their own dashboards and put really nice front ends on top of their SharePoint lists. And believe it or not, they could pretty much come up with lots of the things that they need that they usually send off to the IT or development department for them to build. But imagine offloading that from the developers and just giving power to the people to make their own solutions for things that they need, interdepartmental or whatever it is that they're doing. So thanks a lot for watching. See you around.
Infragistics. On the web at infragistics.com.